There's always a lot of celebration and fanfare whenever somebody joins the Catholic Church, at least for Catholics. And that's true whether you're a pop culture celebrity or just a regular guy like me. I was in my early 20s when I joined the Catholic Church, which is kind of a strange thing for someone of my age group and cultural persuasions to do, which is why there were always a lot of people who wanted to talk to me and hear my story. That is, unless I said things that gave them some sort of indication that I wasn't the exact same kind of Catholic that they were. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing that we celebrate when people encounter the church in this way and partake in the sacramental life of the church. And we should celebrate that, and we should want to hear from their stories and their experiences. But there are also a lot of risks that come with all of that fanfare, both for those who are fans and those who are elevated to this celebrity status for their conversion. Again, whether they're actually celebrities or not. This is why from within all of that celebration and fanfare, we should embrace the good things that come from conversion and the goods that converts can contribute to the church. But we should also be cautious about how that celebration and fanfare can cause harm, especially when we put converts in positions of influence and leadership because of that celebrity factor, which is a good reason to be aware that people convert for a variety of reasons. I've been through RCIA 4 times now, once as a catechumen and 3 times as a sponsor. So I've had a lot of opportunities to participate in conversations with people who were in the process of joining the church. And it seems to me that as often as people convert out of sincere faith in Jesus and the teachings of the church, there are those who convert for other reasons. Perhaps they might be professional reasons. They have some sort of economic gain in mind. Something that seems to be fairly common is people who want to teach at a Catholic school and therefore convert for those reasons. It might be for social incentives. People find acceptance within the church where they might not find it elsewhere, and so they're just looking for that social acceptance. It could be for romantic reasons. They've sparked a new relationship with somebody who is Catholic, or maybe they want to have a Catholic wedding. They're engaged to somebody. This is something I saw a lot in RCIA. There were people who were there whose in-laws were pressuring them to become Catholic so that they could have a Catholic wedding. And then there's just a variety of all kinds of other reasons that don't necessarily have anything to do with sincere faith in Jesus. And here's the critical thing to understand: that we put a target on our backs when we convert or when we participate in the life of the church and become disciples of Jesus, both naturally and supernaturally, which is to say that there are natural and supernatural persons who would love to see us create problems and cause scandal in the church. It is a high stakes thing to do, to become Catholic or to participate in the life of the church, which is why we have to guard ourselves against that kind of antagonism. And sadly, because so many Catholics, including new converts, are practical atheists, that is, they act and live as though God doesn't really exist or doesn't really matter, they become easy prey to the kinds of temptations and traps that might be set for us, which can cause huge problems and scandals in the church. So many of the grave evils done by Catholics, including clergy, I think can be traced back to this problem. They're caused by people who are Catholic in name only and who seem to represent the church as a result of that, but who don't pray, who don't believe in their desperate need for God's grace to help them be a good person, and who are here for all of the wrong reasons. And again, when they're put in positions of authority or of influence, that's when they can cause a lot of damage. In 1 Timothy chapter 3, St. Paul talks about what qualities a church leader should have, and he explicitly says that he should not be a recent convert because he will be susceptible to pride and therefore the influence of the devil. And this is a serious risk for converts. We get excited about them because they've done this amazing thing, and maybe it reminds us of our own experience of moments of conversion in our own lives, and so we celebrate them and we elevate them, and we sometimes sign them up for roles of responsibility and influence that they probably shouldn't have just because they converted. In the parable of the sower, Jesus points out that faith can manifest itself in very superficial ways, like the seeds that fall on rocky ground and immediately take root and enthusiastically spring up out of the ground, but when adversity strikes, they don't have the strength to endure through that. I think converts need time to settle down and settle into the new routine of life. It's a bit of a whirlwind experience to go through conversion and to be received into the church, and it can often be compelled by a lot of emotion and excitement, which will dissipate. And if there's one thing that stood out to me about watching that interview with Shia LaBeouf, it was that he had a lot of excitement and enthusiasm, which is great, but it leaves the question open to what the quality of faith will be when all of that excitement and enthusiasm dies down. It's a bit like romantic infatuation. In the elation of the experience of new love, we can often leave our intellect behind and coast on the momentum of our passions. But as time goes on, the authenticity and sincerity of that love will be tested by adversity sometimes, or just periods where we can't rely on the emotion to carry us through. And it comes down to our willingness to love for love's sake and for the sake of the other person. And conversion is a bit like that. We will often have this experience of infatuation with a new encounter with God, but we should be careful about putting new converts in that frame of mind on a soapbox of influence. You wouldn't take marriage advice about how to have a long and happy marriage from someone who is intoxicated by infatuation of their first romance. In the same way, we probably won't learn a lot about how to grow in discipleship and holiness from somebody who has never faced the kinds of challenges that come with that ambition over long periods of time. Okay, so that's a bit of the cautionary advice I wanted to give, but there are also a lot of good reasons why we should encourage converts and listen to what they have to say. The first, and probably the most obvious, is that they still have a strong connection with the world that persists outside of the church, which is composed of the very people it is our mission to try to reach, to help them to encounter Christ as well. Converts are ideally positioned to tell us what their experience was like and what other potential converts might struggle with, and how we can help them overcome those struggles to more easily explore the Catholic faith. We talk a lot about being a more welcoming church, and if that's a priority for you, then converts are the exact kinds of people you would want to be interrogating to find out what from their experiences made them feel more welcome and what had the opposite effect. And be prepared to hear things that you might not want to hear and that you should take to heart and really contemplate about. And that seemed to be the case in the interview with Bishop Barron and Shia LaBeouf. There were some enthusiastic reactions to the things that he had to say, and then there were certain sectors of the church who were really upset with what he had to say. But can we all please just set aside our prejudices and try to authentically, truly listen to what some of these recent converts have to say, rather than just reacting out of our own sectors of prejudice? In the case of Shia LaBeouf, he spoke about the authenticity and sincerity he found in traditional and orthodox persuasions of the church. He said he felt like in more contemporary elements of Catholic culture, he felt like people were just trying to sell him a car, whereas in more traditional sectors, they were just focused on Jesus, which is exactly what he wanted. Another good reason to listen to some Catholics is because some of them have to make serious sacrifices to become Catholic, which is a very revealing test of the authenticity and sincerity of their faith. And again, this isn't true of all Catholics, so this is something that we should use as a bit of a measure of the quality of their faith. Are they someone who has something to gain? Are they selling something? Do they have professional opportunities that come from this? Or are they just sacrificing something and pursuing Jesus for the sake of pursuing Jesus? In my case, I was departing from walks of life that were familiar to people of my age. My peers and my friends wanted to go to the bar and go to the club every weekend, and at a certain point, I just got fed up with being the designated driver. So as I pursued my faith, I sacrificed relationships that I had since childhood, and at least initially, I came through my conversion process friendless. And when you see converts making those kinds of sacrifices, I would argue that it's a good indication that they are doing it for the right reasons and that the quality of their faith is strong, and therefore it's worth listening to what they have to say, especially as it relates to their own experience. And I'm at the point with the work that I do in the church where I'm less concerned with whether or not someone has the exact acute theological positions that I have as to whether or not they are a person of sincere supernatural faith and love for God. If it's the latter, I'm convinced that that's somebody I can work with and someone who will probably bear good fruit in the life of the church. Because the longer I do this, the longer I'm Catholic and the longer I attempt to participate in the mission of the church, the more I'm becoming convinced that most of our biggest problems in the church stem from professional Catholics who don't actually believe what the church teaches about faith and morals, and as a result are a cause of a lot of the big problems in the church. So for me, I'm way more interested in whether or not someone has a sincere faith. And when it comes to converts, if they're making those kinds of sacrifice, I think that's a good indication that they are doing it for the right reasons, and that we should encourage them and listen to them as they go. And in the case of somebody like Shia LaBeouf, on the very small likelihood that he's watching content on a channel like this, the kind of advice I would give to somebody like that is to anticipate the fact that a lot of this excitement and fanfare will push you through, but you will hit a point where that will die away, and it will come down to the right reasons. So make sure that you are doing it for the right reasons, and encourage and cling to those reasons within your own life as you move forward. Hey, thanks for watching. The reason I can continue making content like this is because of the generous support of my viewers. If you are able to support the work I'm doing, there are a couple of ways you can do that: by donating through my website or by joining my online community, The Reinforcements. Both can be done by visiting brianholdsworth.ca, the .ca because that's how we internet in Canada. Members will have the opportunity to personally interact with myself and other community members, and certain levels will receive a free gift basket from Glory and Shine, who is a family-owned Catholic bath and body products company whose beard balm I'm wearing right now. Members also get free access to Christ-Centered Capital, which offers ethical investing tips that are in accord with Catholic beliefs. Even if you aren't able to support my work, consider checking both of them out at gloryandshine.com and christcenteredcapital.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, thanks for watching.